Hey everybody, it's Mike Jones, Jones Insurance Agency. I got Beth Klein here with us, our office manager, and I'm going to do another podcast, talk about underwriting. Just speak a little bit on that. And so the process of underwriting involves a person or organization accepting some type of financial risk in exchange for some type of compensation. Most frequently, this risk entails either loans, insurance, or some type of an investment. The practice of having each risk taker place their name under the amount of risk that we're willing to undertake is where the name underwriting actually originated. So they put their name up under it, and that's how much they would be willing to how much risk they would be willing to take. So that's kind of where the name underwriter came from. But despite a lot of changes this day and time, it's not quite like that anymore. The term underwriter still remains crucial into the insurance industry. Insurance writers are insurance professionals who understand insurance risk and how to avoid them. They assess the risk of insuring homes, cars, drivers, individuals who might apply for life insurance policies or any of that kind of stuff. So all insurance has an underwriting process, and various things go into the different types of insurance as to how they're underwritten and everything. So Beth, been in the insurance industry for quite a while too, and I know you deal with the underwriters sometimes a little bit more than I do from day to day, but what's your thoughts on the underwriting?
So I just kind of want to kind of touch on this topic as so we're insurance salespeople, we consult with our clients, we find the best products that work for them, and then we help them with that sale. But we are not the ones that make the rules at all. Yeah. We can help you find a product that works for you, that follows the rules, but we're not the ones that do that. Pretty much every insurance company has their own underwriting standards and guidelines, and as an agent, I think it's important and they all have underwriting manuals, obviously, and I think as an agent it's important to go through those manuals, kind of know the products that specific company does insure or will insure under certain speculations, yes, they'll insure this type of car, but only if it meets this criteria, And I think if you go in knowing your products before trying to make a sale, essentially, it avoids a lot of headache and a lot of back and forth between people.
For sure.
And having a good relationship with the underwriting team is also very important, because they're the ones making most of the decisions anyway. And anytime I have a question, I'm always calling them, trying to figure out exactly, well, if this doesn't work, then can we do this, or why not, and as long as you're decent with them, they're very informative and very helpful. So I know when I started at the insurance company before here, I was just a brand new agent, just got out of getting my license, and my manager, she had a lot of personal things happen, and so she wasn't able to be in the office, so it was just me. So I was on an almost first name basis with underwriting over there.
Constantly called.
Yes, I was just like, I don't know, let me call underwriting. And they were just like, it's you again. And so I just think having that relationship is very important, because it makes it so much easier. Mm-hmm. And usually not that they go against rules or anything, but usually they'll help you find a way to make things work if possible. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if possible. I guess not always possible. No. But like you said, different insurance carriers have their own guidelines. Like we've got some that if you don't currently have auto insurance coverage, then they won't pick that up. No. But if you can get it somewhere else and then come back and maybe
Right.
Maybe they give you a better quote, but they won't insure anybody that doesn't currently have auto insurance coverage. So, and most of the time it's kind of like a 6-step process. So they do an initial review, they ask for additional information, coverage determination, whether they cover it or not, and then pricing if they do, and then the policy issuance, and then there's a follow-up phase to it. So pretty much that's the 6-step process for most carriers and stuff like that. But definitely is a process, and depending on the person, what they're trying to insure and things like that, most people fall into those ranges of where they'll cover. But then sometimes there's some people that don't, and then like you said, hey, it's working with the underwriter to see if we can get to, we'll cover them under these stipulations sometimes.
And that's actually what happened here. We had a woman, we rode her car, and so she wanted to bring her house on as well, and she was just like this close to the coast where it was just right on that great area. And so that was like a 3-day process with underwriting, just seeing if there was anything they could do, and they ended up making an exception because usually they don't write that close to the coast, but they would cover her home, but it was very specific stipulations, like it had to be certain deductible amounts and certain coverages on certain structures. So but being able to work with them was awesome, you know.
And that's building that relationship with them, and each carrier's got their own underwriters and, like I say, underwriting guidelines, and then it depends on the type of insurance, whether it's homeowners, auto owners, to include life insurance, health insurance, everything like that has some type of underwriting guidelines and things like that. And it's best to become familiar with that up front as soon as you can. And then, but there still can be some questions. There's some gray areas, like you say, when the manual doesn't necessarily cover a certain specific topic, and you got some extra questions to be able to call them and talk to them and kind of walk through that. I think we talked a little bit about it earlier, though, that there is the possibility, I guess, that having that person to call and talk to maybe, or the thought process right now is some of that might be becoming a thing of the past kind of deal. And especially with this artificial intelligence, AI type stuff coming out, that underwriting may not be that person anymore. And I know I actually found an article about that specifically. They were talking about AI replacing underwriters essentially, and the article is from Marco Andelfato, I think is how you say his name. That's what we're gonna go with. That's what we're going with today.
He's actually the chief underwriting officer for Apollo Insurance Solutions. And so this is kind of his thoughts, and I liked kind of how he went over it with, like, instead of AI replacing everybody, using it as a tool. Because I know right now the Writers Guild of America, I don't know if they're still in the process, but they were kind of having a strike because they were worried about AI taking over their jobs essentially. And then that was a whole other issue of, like, the U.S. Copyright Commission said that you can't copyright stuff that was written by AI. So that's a whole other rabbit hole. But it's just, instead of looking as AI as a replacement for somebody's job, maybe looking at it as like a tool that they could use to definitely help. Because with our jobs, there's always human error, but there's also computer error too. If information is entered incorrectly or not complete, then that AI system can just completely mess it up. What I mean?
It was that old saying we had back when the computers were first coming out: garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
That's what we called it.
Yeah. And so they I think they said it would be several years before AI could replace somebody in insurance, but it could definitely make their life easier if they used it as a tool instead of a replacement.
Yeah.
So, because it can kind of help. I didn't look too deep into it because it was just a huge rabbit hole, but apparently it can help as far as like detecting consumer fraud. So if people were trying to make fraudulent claims, it could help flag that.
Yeah,
so it's definitely something to look into.
Well, depending on what you read about AI and how far you want to take it, AI is supposed to replace the whole human race, I think, eventually. So it just depends on how far
down the rabbit hole you want to
go and stuff like that. Yeah, because supposedly it could replace everybody, and just that'll be the next evolution of where I guess humanity ends and AI takes over or whatever.
Right.
I don't know that we're going to get there anytime soon.
I don't think so.
I guess if we figure out how to dig up the lines out there and cut the power and the data, then
exactly.
AI shuts down at that point. Right?
Yeah.
They can't operate. But all right. Well, it's a good conversation on underwriting and a little bit about the AI and the insurance industry, and maybe where we're headed with some of that kind of stuff, especially in the underwriting process. And Brooke's going to interrupt our talk and everything, so it's all good. Hey, come back. He can edit it out. It's all good. What's up?
Speaking on AI as like a tool instead of replacing somebody, I don't feel like I could be replaced by AI.
Not without a doubt.
That could sound kind of
No
cocky,
way.
but that's just my
right
opinion. But I do feel like it could be helpful and beneficial. One of the things that I do specifically is I send out birthday cards to our client, not only our clients, but like their family if we're covering them as well. So if we have their spouse and their children, I send out birthday cards as well. And I do think it would be nice to have some type of tool that kind of just automatically not creates the cards, but creates it where I don't have to go into each individual policy and read those names and information, kind of stuff like that, just to kind of streamline those processes. Another thing is when I make our marketing schedule, we do a lot of outside marketing, visiting different businesses. It kind of having to go back and figure out, like, when did we last visit these people, or when's the most recent time we've gave candy to one of our, we have little candy jars, and just figuring out something. And so having a tool that could automatically say, hey, you haven't been here in a couple weeks, let's go ahead and put them on the schedule. Exactly. Or create a timeline for like, hey, y'all haven't restocked the candy in a few weeks, let's put that on the schedule. Just different things like that I think would definitely be beneficial.
You do. So information request, it talks about the MVR, the clue report, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if you want
to that mostly, we can talk about it a little bit, but that's mostly for like premium reasons. But we can go over that because a lot of claims kind of underwriting will reject you for claims and stuff. So.
Well, because technically as a part of underwriting, because we'll go based upon what they tell us, then we'll run the MVR.
And then if you have a lot of stuff,
so maybe we speak to that because like, hey, sometimes when we're asking, we get a report and then we have to run the MVR, and if you leave something off, the policy price is going to change.
Premium goes up.
The MVR is going to show anything that's on your record.
Well, she mentioned it does affect, like, if it's too many claims, too many accidents, or they're just
But
risk.
we can kind of brush up on both of it. So
Okay.
So you starting out? Or?
Yeah, I'll start it out.
Okay.
Action.
Oh, action. Okay, sorry.
I
forgot.
You got that little clicker.
Yeah, he's got the clicker in. So another thing, kind of going off of like, we don't make the rules, we don't make the price either. A lot of things kind of determine that price and that's based off of those underwriting factors, essentially. A big one is like location, for both car and homeowners insurance. If you're in a very populated location that has a lot of accidents, you're going to see a more expensive premium than somebody who's in a more rural location where
Fewer accidents.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing is like your MVR report. I know we kind of talked about that in a previous episode, but that also determines underwriting as far as price and even if they'll accept you as a customer. Some places,
that's one of those things where
Yeah.
when we're asking a client or a potential client what is your driving record look like or something
Right.
like that, and sometimes they leave something off.
Yes,
We
or a
run
lot
that
off.
or a lot off. We run that MVR right, it's going to show up. So
Yeah. And we're not here to judge you. We just
no,
we need to know
just,
that way we can give you the most accurate price and to see if they'll even write you.
Yep.
We have some companies where if you have so many accidents or tickets, they won't even accept you as a client. We have a few.
1 second. It's still recording.
Okay. We have a few where if you have a lot of towing claims, then they won't offer you towing coverage.
Yeah.
So
Well, even more reason to get a membership
Exactly.
instead of just a towing coach.
yeah,
Right?
because the membership that doesn't go against your insurance at all.
No.
So, your credit also kind of affects underwriting's determination, and I think that's kind of a not newer component, but it's something that's becoming more popular with companies is using that credit score. So
All those risk factors kind of go into it, and some people don't even think some of it's necessarily a risk factor, but
right,
every company that we've got or every company that's out there includes that credit report into
Right.
it, whether it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with somebody's driving or
exactly.
how their house is going to be or anything like that, but it's companies still look at it.
Yes.
All right, so today's podcast is brought to you by Freedom First Outfitters, Second Amendment Haven, and so you can check them out online at freedomfirstoutfitters.com. We appreciate your time and attention today. If you would like, subscribe, and share our podcast.